that's the best I could do. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. We get these questions here.
Hi. When you talk about the Quran being inspired,
Yes.
I listened to last night as well.
Oh, yes, sir.
Some of it seems like a lot of the things that you talked about in the Quran and that I've seen in the Quran, aren't they really similar to things in the Bible? Like a story you told last night kind of reminded me of the book of Job with the angels. I mean, not exactly the same, but just questioning God, and also a lot of Muhammad's teachings, aren't they similar to Christ, if not like not doing alms before men to be seen
Yes.
of them? Aren't they?
Yes.
So how?
Yes, and Confucius and many other great religious teachers.
Yeah. What would separate the Quran, like as far as just the moral tenets that it has? What would separate the Quran from like the New Testament or other writings? Like what would make that special?
Do you mean on a moral level?
Well, isn't that what originally you were concerned about? You said like it was just beautiful in the way that it taught people how to.
Tonight,
how to live a
I
moral
talked
life.
about that. Yeah. On a moral level, like I'll start. You can interrupt me when you want. On a moral level, both scriptures, many of the scriptures around the world, teach goodness, living, being good, worshiping one God or a supreme being, etc. And that it conforms to the whole picture of revelation in the Quran, because the Quran says that God has revealed the truth to many people of many nations and many times, and that that all mankind at this point in history, right, has been exposed to the truth at one time in their past. Every nation has had a messenger, the Quran says. You know what I mean? So it would be not surprising to a Muslim then that the moral teachings and the ethical teachings of the great world religions intersect in many ways. Are you following me up till now? Because there's the same God behind them all. What the Quran does say about them is that along the way, though, in the past, the other scriptures have been, in some sense, corrupted, so that some of those truths have been mixed with things that are not from God. Are you following me? Mm-hmm. And so the necessity of this revelation. Okay? So the Quran says it is a confirmation of the truths that came before it, and a correction of certain things that were corrupted. That's how the Quran sees itself in relation to the other scriptures. The thing that I found different from the Quran, unique about the Quran, because you did ask me that just now. The thing I found unique about the Quran was what I talked about last night, truly unique, was that it's tremendous stress on reason and the fundamental role that reason plays in the attainment of faith and in the pursuit of truth. And that I found that, and not only its stress, but it's very rational and almost didactic way it leads you and guides you, hopefully, to truth and to God.
I hate to open the can of worms of faith and reason, but if something is reasonable and logical, does it really take a whole lot of faith to believe it? I mean, if it makes perfect sense to you.
Well, yes, it really does, because, at least it did for me, because as much as the Quran was reasonable and logical, when I first started, the whole idea of becoming a Muslim, or embracing this Quran and its message. Here I had this message, that I really started to sense was truth. Here I had, my reasons for not believing in God sort of stripped away. Here I, had, thought about my past and felt that I almost, if I reviewed my past, there were moments when I had almost a natural inclination or instinct for belief in God. In moments of crisis or fear, when you suddenly it seems like you know God better than anybody else. Oh, God, help me, or things like that. Everything in the Quran pointed to me, led me to believe certainly God could exist, probably God does exist. Still, I was unwilling. The biggest problem I had was I cannot become a Muslim. I cannot embrace this message. Because even though it appealed to me rationally, I was working at a Catholic school at that time, the oldest Catholic school in America. And I thought I was untenured, and I thought I would lose my job. I thought my parents would come down on me. My parents would isolate me, would not approve of it, especially since they were devout Catholics. I thought my friends would think I went Arab crazy in San Francisco. You know, I thought that this is a religion associated with terrorists and backwards people and murderers. And you know, my colleagues would start thinking I lost my mind. Especially conversion. I mean, a math professor is not supposed to convert to anything. You know, seriously, mathematicians, we're supposed to be, you know, totally, you know, that's beyond us. You know, we're way superior to that. You know, religious belief is, you know, trying to be a devout person of any religion and work in a math department, people look at you as lost your mind. You know, even to this day, I don't even hardly bring up the issue in the math department. I just keep it low key. You know, because I know my colleagues will think I'm crazy. You know, so there were all these sort of personal problems with embracing this message. And they were my biggest barrier to doing that. And that's what the Quran talks about. You know, it says that, you know, people refuse to listen to this message, reject it out of hand, oppose it, try to find every reason not to believe it because of their own personal wants and desires are suddenly going to be all messed up. You know, they're going to suddenly be under attack. And people fear that. And you know, I certainly did. And so it definitely wasn't easy for me. And I know for tons of fellow converts like myself that have embraced this religion, it wasn't easy for them either, for the very same reasons. They feared their job, they feared the loss of their family, they feared the loss of their friends. Maybe it's all imagined. And it turned out everything I thought was going to happen happened to a tiny degree, but you know, nothing like I imagined. I imagined much worse. My parents were a little upset, but they still loved me. My friends, well, I lost some, but I gained others. They didn't fire me from work like I thought they would. I got tenure and promoted. Then I moved from there to another university and got promoted again, you know, to full professor. But you know, all these disasters. I thought I would never be able to find a woman to marry. And God, I found a woman from Saudi Arabia and I got married. You know, so I'm sorry I took too long. Do you have anything else?